The basic things are the secret to become a good rider and to get a well-trained horse on grassroots level, elementary level, or at the end of the day at Grand Prix level. It is having the basic things under control. And I say, I hope I'm able to communicate with you. And you can ask whenever you have something here or here, ask. There is no stupid question. For me it's important that at the end of the day, at the end of tomorrow, we look a little bit with similar eyes. In Germany sometimes we have only judges, or trainers, or riders. And I always say it's better to have all these groups together. Why? Because we have to look with the same eyes. It's not good when the judges look with this eye, and the trainers with this eye, and the riders maybe with both eyes. Then there is always a difference and a bad communication, and the judges, or better the other way around, the riders tell bad stories about the judges, and the trainers say, we don't know what we have to train. Therefore, it's very important to look with the same eyes. The rider has to have it in mind. The trainer has always to look, are the basics okay? Basics okay? And the judges have to be very strict with the basics. If there is a technical mistake, a flying change laid behind, forget it, it's a low mark, forget it. But when the basics are not okay, wow, down with the marks. We are responsible from the judge's point of view to see whether the basics are okay. And I said, I think that our Grand Prix today doesn't test enough the basic things. When you have a top class horse for Piaffe and Passage, you can get high scores, but to be honest, some of these top class horses with Piaffe and Passage, they are not well trained in the basics. And therefore I did say in the Global Dressage Forum, I think we need some movements which we don't have now, which is the Schaukel, not just reinback. Just reinback, you can school a horse as a trick. Oh, they know stop. They go back in a 2-beat rhythm. They do this plus minus. Not good, but they do it. But when you ride a Schaukel, reinback, forward, reinback, also 2-beat rhythm, reinback, 4-beat rhythm, forward and walk, and reinback again, then the judges see, is the training okay or not? The next movement, what I did say is,
I really read the Schaukel because I'm so glad it's gone.
Yeah, but I'm sure, but to be honest, if the basics are okay, then I think this horse will not have a problem with the Schaukel. And the next thing is pirouettes in walk. Not just walk between passage and for the next movement. No, pirouette in walk. Then you have to ride. Otherwise you can sit like sitting on a hot potato, legs away, and then go, and then they start again with passage after a short diagonal. And the next thing is, and I think it's a friend of mine, I like him very, very much, he's an excellent rider, is Steffen Peters. And he said, no, Christoph, I don't agree, but I like the movement, medium canter, and in the medium canter a flying change. Because when you have this, then you have to ride a horse like Uta Gref, because what you are saying, the horse was the whole time in front of her. And many horses, they are not in front. It's much easier to ride a medium canter, plus minus a good collection, and then the flying change. But when you ride the horse properly in front of your driving aids, then it's easy to ride a flying change in medium canter, but it is a little bit another training for the horse. And therefore, these are my suggestions for a change of the Grand Prix. I just want to point out two things. First of all, you see good riding starts having a good position in the saddle. I think this is very important for the young next generation. But the most important thing is to do a lot of work to sit, I would say, like Uta Gräf. This is a vision. Blue curtain, royal blue curtain of Andreas Stano, and your vision has to be to sit like Uta Gräf. This is very important, and it is very important to have what I like very much, lessons to launch someone, so that someone has really enough time to get the right feeling in the saddle. And I like it very much to do it with often closed eyes. So to swing, and I think to close your eyes. Just close your eyes yourself, and then you would see that you have a more sensitive feeling. And it's very important that we, when we learn to sit properly, that we learn to sit into the horse's movement. And I think many of us, maybe not of you, but I know how difficult it is, are not good for horses because they don't sit relaxed and balanced in the saddle. And I think we are all horse friends, and we give carrots, and we bring the horses out in the fields, and they get blankets when it's cold, and all these things. We do all these things very perfect, very good. But the most important thing is for the horse that when we sit on horseback, that we are balanced. Because many of us sitting on horseback, and we use the reins to find our own balance in the saddle. And when we use the reins, then we bring the horse out of balance, and the horse is very confused. Therefore, I think it's very important, especially for the young ladies. You have some boys who are riding as well. They do basketball and tennis and things.
They ride with Pat Pirelli.
Like a true American cowboy, yeah. And because, to be honest, this is more difficult. I'm sure when you ride Western on a very high level, it's difficult as well, but the beginning is here much more difficult, to sit. And this is a way to get a proper position. Vision is Uta Gräf is unbelievable difficult. Well, the next thing is, which is very important, and if we would have theoretic, not just theory here in the classroom at university, but if we would go in the indoor and see horses, I want to point out, and many riders, to be honest, nearly all riders do it in the wrong way. When they ride a transition, they do it with their hands. They ride half halts, transitions, and when they ride a transition between trot and walk, they do it like this. And this is a very important wrong step what the riders do, because this is for me very, very important. This is against the nature of the horse. Whenever you use your reins, you work against the nature of the horse, because the horse is a flight animal. And when you use the reins and the bit, and you try to stop the horse with your hands, then the flight instinct of the horse is not working. And some horses are then very short in the neck and are very anxious. Others are going against the bit. Others are running away because of this, and others close their body and don't do anything. But the reason of these negative things are, I would say, I just say 80, 90, 100%, is a rider who is using too much the rein. And if I would have now a clinic with practice, I never say ride a transition from medium trot to collected trot, or from canter to trot, or from canter to walk. I always say ride into the walk, ride into the collection. The rider needs the spirit to ride with driving aids, not to finish the trot, but he has to have the feeling, I start the walk. And the transition from trot to walk is, and this is very important from the riders and trainers' point of view, that you have the right idea, the right picture in your mind. And the picture is, I start the walk and I don't finish the trot. Because we humans, maybe not the humans from Texas, we are hand workers. Whenever we do something, we do it with our hands. And when someone is talking about his horse, then he's often saying, oh, I do this and this. When some talks, you see always this. And the opposite is necessary. You ride into the transition, and you have to have the feeling, I begin the walk, and in this situation, I give both reins. This is very important. When a rider is sitting stiff on horseback, he has no proper feeling. The more you train someone, now I look to the trainers, the more you train him, you have to sit like this, and don't use the upper body, the more he will sit like this. Maybe at the end he will sit like this. But then the feeling is gone. Therefore, it's very important that you always have the clear picture that the rider will be supple in the saddle and that the rider will find his or her natural balance. And I think this was a good example how balance and suppleness in the saddle looks like. Absolutely. Also, this is absolutely fine. And I say very often in Germany, when I hope it's the same idea, what you have in your head as well, when parents says, okay, now our daughter is riding half a year, and now I think she's ready that I will buy her a horse. And I always say, I don't think that she's ready. I don't know your daughter, but I think it's very important that she gets a lot of feeling different horses. Maybe a schoolmaster horse, a younger horse, a bigger horse with bigger movements, a horse with smaller movements, a horse which has such a body, a horse with such a body, and all these things, so that the rider gets a lot of different feelings in the saddle. And what is very important, and this is, I think, a little bit an American problem, that they have to ride with long stirrups, without stirrups, and with short stirrups. And let's say ride massage, to be honest, cross country, and show jumping or hunter classes, something like this. So that they get, I come in a second, let's say get a proper balance in the saddle. You need a variation of different possibilities sitting in the saddle. When you don't be able to jump a fence, like here, my table, then you are not able to sit on a horse which is walking like a rodeo or something. Your horse is a day not out in the fields, and something happens, and then the horse is running away or squawking, and when you are not able to jump a fence like this, then you are frightened. And what are you doing? You use the reins. And when you do this, you work immediately against the nature of the horse. And what is the reaction of the horse? That this process becomes more and more. In the beginning, he wants to do it like this. Then the rider do this, and then he's doing like this. And then the rider falls off. Especially, we have this in Germany quite often in winter when it's really cold. When I left Germany a week ago, we had 5 degrees Celsius minus and snow. Here, really snow in the region where I'm living in. It's not a very snowy region. It was quite cold. Now it's much more warm. And when you go out with your, or in an indoor, and most horses are clipped. So, and then you ride, and then the horses are very fresh. Oh. And then many riders are in the indoor, and what are you doing? You use the reins to stop the horse. And then you work against the nature, and then all these negative things start. Therefore, this is very important that the rider learns to ride, I would say, in all saddles. Cross country, half seat, light seat, hunter or show jumping classes, short stirrups, and dressage, and why not reining and other ways of Western style? Why not? That gives them a better feeling. You are the second one. There's a lady over there, and then Carol. Yeah. Rideability, suppleness, way of training. Yeah. Okay, I see a 10s and 9s. And I would give more than an 8.7, to be honest. I would give a 9 in front, because this is what we want to see. It has harmony, and this horse is, from my point of view, 100% trained into the right direction. And we have to judge positive. And when we judge a horse like this, a little bit like a middle-class horse, then we don't have the right eyes. If we would have the dressage forum have a horse like this, we would say, come. There we had some tricky horses. This is the second horse of Steffen Peters, was a tricky horse. Was, for me, not supple. The whole time tense, and this horse is supple. 100% trained into the right direction. Therefore, at least a 9 in front. I would give a 9.5 plus. And general impression, what do you think? Yeah, I think so, right? This is 9s and 10s, I see. Yours, someone with a 6. No, 9s and 10s, okay. And when we are so close together, this is the vision. This is now the idea what we should have when we judge good riding. We say in Germany, or I say it, it's my word, the neck is the Balancierstange. You need the neck to balance the whole body. And therefore Rollkur is ridiculous, because you take the possibility away for the horse to balance the body. That in special circumstances you make the horse a bit, or the horse is a little bit lower, shorter in the neck. That's okay. We don't have to be too sophistically or too academically. But important is that we have the whole time a proper stretching in the body. This is important. Therefore we need this movement giving a long rein, that we see, is the horse properly stretched. Many horses don't seek the bit enough, and they are, to be honest, the whole time behind the bit. But when you give longer rein, then they do this. They say good morning or good evening, and they don't stretch. And this is, to be honest, this is a 10, what we saw here, behind the curtain, and the other movement is lower than a 5. Lower than a 5, if we would give 1 mark for this. Yeah? Pardon?
He also kept it.
Yeah.
For the whole
And when you would see not not what the rider is doing, just seeing the legs, you wouldn't see that she's riding with long reins. And this is the spirit of this movement. There is no change. Again, I love it to have it between proper movements on this level. I know when Dieter Schüle, a good friend of me, is an Olympic judge, called me and said, Christoph, I have a super idea. Because we were doing this test. And he said, half pass left, circle, long rein. I said, wow, that's the spirit of classical dressage. That's the spirit of the handbook, the FEI handbook. So, but I think we have three things, and therefore I often say judging is very easy. When we judge, we have three things in mind. First of all, is the horse the whole time able, or is the rider the whole time able to give long rein? And is the horse the whole time willing to stretch like Damon, Jerome, as we saw it here? When you say yes, please judges, high scores. You have to have the feeling, yes, the rider is able to do this. Then it's a 10, give a high score. The next thing is what you have to do when you judge. And often the riders don't know what they have to do. A lovely movement, we didn't have it here, but we have it in other national classes, and I think we have it in international classes sometimes as well. It is a movement, give rein, and retakes the rein for some strides or steps. Then you see, is the rider sitting independent, or is he using the reins to balance his body? Is the horse in a positive uphill balance? Has the horse a nice self-carriage? Is the horse supple? And all the other criteria. That's the next thing. When you say yes, the rider is able to give both reins and to retake the reins, judges, high scores. And the third thing is, it may sound a little bit ridiculous, but it's very, very important. The next question is the rider able to ride the test with one hand? When you're able to ride with one hand, you're a rider, then you are able, then you have a well-trained horse. I would say Uta would be able to ride the whole test with one hand. And this is, for me, to be honest, the most important part. Like what I did say maybe half an hour ago, many people, they are good in the saddle and they control tension, which is the opposite of suppleness. But they don't be able to school a horse into the direction of suppleness. So then the next thing is contact, connection. And to be honest, can we just go back to the picture before? Contact is the whole horse. Therefore, the picture now is a grey horse. Contact starts with the hind leg. Many people think contact is just between hand and mouth. Okay. But the contact is how the horse moves from behind through the whole body. So, yeah, straightness, gerade Richtung. You know that all horses are crooked. And many people have written big articles, why? I never could read an article and say, okay, now I'm able to understand the problem. But I'm very realistic, and I'm coming from the point that I want to say how we can ride our horse in a good way. And how can we straight our horse. And for me, the more I am working with horses, the more clinics I do, the more lessons I give, I say, if, God father would say, you have only one part of your body and everything is away. What do you think? What is the most important part of my body, what I need to ride in a proper way? Maybe the 2 seat bones I have as well. Maybe that's it, though. But then, not more. What do you think? Head. Okay, not too, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Brain.
Brain, yeah. Okay, it's a stupid question, but I just wanted to say, it is for me the inside leg. You have to have always the feeling that you are able to produce a horse with your inside leg. This is important to make the horse straight. And when you use the inside leg in a proper way, then you ride the whole time a little bit with shoulder in front, shoulder forward, or shoulder in tendency. And this is important to make the horse straight. And therefore you need the inside leg. And a wonderful movement is to ride in each corner a 10-meter circle. What Steffen did with the bay horse in the corner, it's the left side. He did it once. This was really, I said this a 10.0 session for me. It was a 10.0 session because he tried to bring the basics under control. And this is to ride a horse, to bend a horse to make it straight. This is a principle. And this works when you use mainly your inside leg. And always a little bit with shoulder in tendency, with shoulder forward or shoulder in front. With correct flexion. This is for me spirit. And then you are able to bring the horse in front of you, and then you are able, at the end of the day, to collect the horse. Therefore, the straightness is very important, and your inside leg is important. Always with shoulder in. But when we look, most of the people, they don't use shoulder in tendency. And for the young riders, it's important that the feeling is, I use the inside leg against the outside rein. This is the feeling you will have. The diagonal way to give aids with the inside leg against the outside rein. This is a spirit to straighten a horse. Therefore, this is very important. Coming with the inside leg, with shoulder in the beginning, with the leg yielding, so that the horse will accept the leg. Many riders have no idea how to ride leg yielding. And they don't school the horse. The horse they are not sensitive to the sideways, the inside sideways leg. And when they are not sensitive, then you are not able to straighten the horse. Then the horse will be crooked. And then you will be not able to ride shoulder in front. And when the horse is not accepting these kind of inside leg, what are you doing? You use your brain. Whenever you have a problem with your position, whenever you have a problem with the sensitivity of the horse not accepting the leg enough, the result is there is a man, not a monkey, you come into a gentleman, you start in a monkey situation. You use your reins. It's very easy. But it's wrong. It is wrong. Our way of riding is to make the gaits of the horses better. In the beginning, a horse trots, I would say like this. That's a natural trot. But at the end, when you have collection and impulsion, the horse trots with more impression, with more elasticity, with more swinging, and more balance. all these things become better and better. This is the spirit of our way of training. Okay, but this we can discuss later how the bits are working. But I think many people, Kirsten, think at the end of the day very much bit-oriented. But the better you write, the less you think about the bit. The less you are good in writing, the more you think, oh, this bit and this nose bend and now all from snaffle to double bridle and all these things. The more you sit, you write like her, the less important is the right snaffle and the right bit. Okay, nose bend and bit and so on. Okay, I'm very careful. I'm not sure what you will do in the afternoon, but I'm very happy. This is a very weak point which I have. I need a person like you all then. My wife at home, and you here. Yeah. But now it's your turn. What we do and when we meet again. Yeah, and that the walk is a mirror of good training. Although, if you have a problem in walk, often you can't fix the problem in the walk itself. You have to do a better trot and canter training. And then at the end, the result is a better walk with more relaxation, with a safe rhythm, and a rider who is able to ride the walk with driving aids and not just sitting on and hoping that he can trot and canter again.
Right. If you can't influence the walk, then there's probably other problems.
Absolutely. That's it. And I think, thank you that you say this, is because this was one point I wanted to underline. And I think it's for a horse very good, and many dressage riders think, especially when they are on a higher level, that they have only one position. They sit properly and then they ride their movement, maybe flying changes or pirouettes or other more difficult movements, but they have always the same position. I like very much, for instance, when they do, for instance, learning a horse, they do a flying change, and the horse is doing it in a nice way. Why don't the rider ride after the flying change in the half seat or light seat? Half seat needs to give the horse a wellness feeling. For me, when I give lessons, I have always in my mind the word, I want to give the horse a wellness situation. And this is wellness. It is practical wellness. When the rider or the flying change, as an example, then half seat, both reins, one hand, and pets the horse, and lets the horse go, and then maybe into walk, trot, walk, long rein, pet him, break. So and then start again, ride the other flying change, and when you are successful, half seat or light seat, longer rein, pets the horse, walk and break. This is a positive concept, and this is for the horse good, because then the horse is able to realize what the horse has learned. Learn and the break, and this gives the horse a wellness feeling, a good feeling. Okay, good. Next, this was contact. Next picture. Yeah, good. Impulsion. I think very important is when you give marks, when you give comments, you always have to look from the hind legs. Many people look, or judges and trainers look just to the front legs. Important is that the hind legs are moving, and it was very good that Carol yesterday did say, when we saw this mare, which was so tense, she looks to the hind legs, okay, the camera was there, and she saw that the hind legs were wide behind. And this is very important, that you have the feeling, okay, the whole hind leg is moving, and the energy comes from the hind legs. Many horses are not active with their hind legs, and this is very important. And yeah, the movement has to start from behind. And when I give lessons, I look other horse and rider combinations, I look very, very careful how the horse starts. When the horse in halt, for instance, does a horse start with the front legs and then the hind legs are coming? Or is the horse always starting from behind? Although when the rider gives his aids, here with his driving aids, the horse starts. And when you look, many horses don't start from behind. He gives the beginning, nothing happens, and then the horse moves in the front and then the hind legs are coming. And it's very important that you school your eyes and look at the hind legs start in all parts of a test. In the beginning, from halt to walk, from halt to trot, or in this situation when you have impulsion, that the horse starts for its medium trot or extended trot really from behind. This is, from my point of view, very, very important. And then the horse is able to carry the weight. And don't forget what Robert Dover said, in extended movements, the horse needs collection. That's very important. Many people do these kind of movements and the horses become longer and longer and they are not enough closed from behind. They have no collection. Many people use too much flexion, and this is, this is flexion left from the rider's point of view. Many people think flexion is to bring the head so much to the left side to say good morning to your horse, or good evening, sleep well. No, this is flexion, because the more you do this, I will not say wrong flexion, or the more you put your neck to the left side, the more the horse comes out of balance. And this is very important that we judges look very careful. Is the horse well balanced? And the horse is just able to be balanced when the horse is able to stretch the neck. If the rider is using too much, for instance, the left rein, the inside rein, to flex the horse in the corner, in shoulder in half passes, in the circle, in the volte, and so on, then he brings the horse out of balance. And this we have to realize. Okay, yes please.
So on the Grand Prix half passes, for an example, extreme, then in your description, the horse would not be looking at the B?
Yeah, B, and yeah.
Because he would have to have much more flexion than that to be on that half line and be parallel.
Yeah, therefore, to be honest, we were discussing this in the Global Dressage Forum as well, and I don't like this movement. To be honest, I know how they did produce this movement. I was not part of this panel when they did it, but I was part of the situation when they had tried it. It was in Warendorf. There was in these old days, it's now 10 or 15 years ago, in these old days, two very famous people, one judge and one rider who did represent all riders. And they had this in mind, and one rider, to be honest, one rider was practicing it, and then they said, okay, that's a good movement, and we put it in the test. So, from my point of view, this is not very horse-friendly. I will say why. Because we say dressage, and here is our monkey, and I try to explain what do we mean with our classical dressage. Dressage is what a horse is doing in the fields as well. But no horse will do a half pass. They do piaffe, or when they are nervous, they do passage, they do a flying change, they do a pirouette. These are all movements they like, or they do an extended encanter and an extended trot, like this. They do these things, but they never will do a half pass. And this is not a typical movement. It's a little bit circus movement. The next thing is, we are breeding horses with paces, and the horses get better paces, better and better and better. And this is a movement where you don't need a horse which has very good paces. The bigger the paces, the more difficult it is to ride these double half passes. Therefore, it is from two angles, from my point of view, against the nature of the horse. And it is the same thing when you start a show jumping competition. And the very first movement is the double combination, very backwards. I think it's better to start a competition, show jumping as well, a little bit more with a forward tendency in the beginning, and then more technical part. And this is for me against the horse and against the positive training of the horse. And I like much more the movement as we have it in the Grand Prix Special, with a longer distance, and then the next movement, passage, and what's coming then.
So wait a minute though, because I
Yeah.
don't know, then is the horse looking at feet? Because that's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
taught to look,
Yeah, yeah.
ride and to look
Yeah, yeah.
for. So the horse's neck should be
Yeah.
on the line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you have it. You have it to do, because otherwise you are not able to ride
okay.
this distance. Yeah,
So the
agree.
horse still should be looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes
Sorry.
him overbent and then, okay.
That's it. But this is, I say it, it's my personal opinion, against the nature of the horse. And I agree. Yeah? Yeah?
Well, back to what's national, Rokovansky had an interesting
Yeah?
thing, said that at the Spanish school they never did one tendency.
Yeah?
Because they didn't
Yeah.
think it was.
Absolutely.
That-
Absolutely.
pacing, and he said that then the Germans went home from the Spanish school and did the one tendency, and he said, oh, we must do it too.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
again against the nature.
Yeah. I fully agree. If I would say what is the second movement, which is against the nature of the horse, I would say this as well. Also these two, half passes and this. Right? And therefore I think we have to be very careful in which part of the Grand Prix we put these movements in. We have it, and I think it's from the gymnastic point of view, it's very good to have half passes, but a little bit more on a friendly line. When you have the feeling, okay, the rider can give during the movement both reins, and the horse will maintain balance, uphill tendency, and especially flexion and bending and all these criterias. This, if I would have a practical clinic with you, I would practice this, I would ask for this. And then we see it. Many horse-rider combination look like this. The horse is leaning on the bit, and then the rider gives both reins, and then the horse loses balance, rhythm, cadence, all these things. This is very important. And the next thing, and then you can say something, very important is that the rider rides in this movement with his inside leg. Many riders, they just ride with the outside leg. They just bring the horse to the side. This is just circus riding. No, the idea is using the inside leg so that the horse brings his or her inside leg more into the direction of the center of gravity. And this is very important, that the horse is bent around the inside leg of the rider's inside leg. This is the spirit of this movement. And we have now in Germany tests, and this is, we say L test with 2 stars. This is with counter-canter, with a movement about the haunches, and with shoulder and half passes. We have it now since 2012 in our test, and then the next level is the test where we have flying changes included, so that the people learn earlier to use the inside leg, to ride properly corners, to ride properly shoulder in, and to learn early enough how to start into the half passes. To be honest, at the end of the day, and then there a question, at the end of the day, a half pass is a travers on the diagonal. Also if you have the picture, I don't write a half pass, I write a travers on the diagonal. This is much better picture. Why? When you ride a half pass, many people try it, and then at the end the hind legs are moving forward. And you have always to have the feeling that the shoulders are just a tiny bit in front of the hind legs. This is very, very important to have this as a picture in your mind. And the more you flex the horse, the more at the end of the day the hind legs will coming in front, and the more you will lose the balance and the cadence, and at the end of the day of this. So that people just, and I think this is very important to point it out, that people see more the movement, and they see, okay, half pass is riding into this direction. And what they are doing, they use the spurs, they use the outside leg, maybe the whip, and then they bring the horse into this direction. But this is not the spirit of the half passes. The spirit of the half passes is to have bigger gaits, to swing the horse more in trot or later on in canter. You can do it in canter as well. And you have to do it in canter as well. It's a movement in tests. And then I like to say, you give the horse with your body language, you look to B or you look to E, and you ride with your body language into the direction, and the horse is moving in the direction because your inside seat bone gives the horse a direction. And this is the spirit to ride, and it's not using the outside to bring the horse into this direction. Therefore, I don't like the word, to be honest, half pass. I like travers on the diagonal, because this is the spirit of this movement. It's good when the judges have this spirit in their minds and the trainers train into this direction, because then they stop to use the whole time outside leg, and you have to go into this direction. What did you learn yesterday? Yes, sir.
The most important concept that I took away from yesterday, managing tension, not producing sound. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Among other things that I learned, you gave me a new tool when using the walk to evaluate the training. To evaluate the overall training of the horse. That was interesting for me to think about.
Yeah, and that the walk is a mirror of good training. Eh? Although, if you have a problem in walk, often you can't fix the problem in the walk itself. You have to do a better trot and canter training. And then at the end, the result is a better walk with more relaxation. Yeah. We sometimes in Germany discuss what is more important, more rhythm or relaxation supplements. I think they are like brothers and sisters, very close together. Some say relaxation before rhythm. We have now in our training scale, and the same you have as well, and the international as well. We start with rhythm and then relaxation, but you can change it. There is. We have to accept that we make mistakes, and this is for me a mistake, a judge's mistake.
That's why it was so encouraging to hear that the extravagant horse 6-year-old yesterday was 14.
Yeah,
because you
coming out of 15
yeah.
with 7.2 in total. So.
I just thought it was interesting when Stephen Clark was asked about why Parseval didn't win in the Olympics and Allegra did. And he said at the end of the day, they chose harmony over brilliance.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I thought that was great.
Absolutely, because this is the way we want to see it. And brilliance against the horse. Because she was very strong on her hands. And when she had this problem in Kentucky with the blood in the mouth, at the end of the day, and we had discussed it hundreds of times, at the end of the day, horses with blood in the mouth or here at the spurs, like Tina Conute, it happened now in Wellington, I think 10 days ago, and 1 week ago. At the end of the day, it's always which happens against the horse. And at the end of the day, Parsifal is not, it's a spectacular horse because he has in the positive way. I judged him and give 10 for a piaffe and 10 for the transitions he has. Wow, it's unbelievable the power of the horse. But it's always a little bit a fight of the rider against the horse. It is not harmony. We were discussing this in the Global Dressage Forum as well. Cooperation as one, Susan, in the Global Dressage Forum we said it as well. It was exactly cooperation to explain rideability, the way of training, and all these things, to point it out. This is what we want to see is cooperation. And I say often in the German language auf gleicher Augenhöhe. Also not the horse as a slave of the rider, but as a true partner. If the rider guides the horse, this is important when you see the harmony, when you see the symbiose between both, but they are partners. This is important. And not one is a slave and the other is the hero sitting here on horseback. This is very important. Now,
just explain this to me.
Yeah, I think it's always something between black and white. For me, it was now important from the judge's point of view to explain more flexion is not necessary as you could see it in the picture. If you do it in the training situation, in the education of the horse, a little bit more flexion, absolutely fine, but you have to realize that you can get a problem when you do it too intensively, if you do it over too long time, because then you bring the horse out of balance. That's a problem. That's a big problem, and then you work against the nature of the horse. But many people don't realize it. They see, oh, many people do this, and this was what I did here yesterday, that in the Olympics it was not allowed to go to the practicing arena, and then they do this, and they fight against the horse, and this is not what we want to do, because many people, this we have to have in mind, they do things like this, not just to make the horse more supple or to ride the horse more, give the horse a better balance feeling at the end of the day, but to bring the horse more into a slave's position, so that the horse has not their own ideas. They ride against the nature, the personality of the horse. This is very often the situation, as the Rollkur, or low, round and deep, and all these things. When riders do this very much, they do it to
Submit.
Exactly.
In the wrong way.
In the wrong way, to bring the horse under their control. And this is, from my point of view, absolutely wrong. Negative and wrong. Okay? Yeah, yes, please.
Would Charlotte Dujardin be a good example?
100%. She is my favorite. I judged her last year, and I was really fascinated. That's, for me, the very best I saw in the last decades. Absolutely. Absolutely. Although what she did, although not, she has a better test and not so good test, that's life, but I think it's in the internet. This was, I think that was nearly the world record in Hagen in April 2012. This was the very best test I ever seen. Grand Prix special. Grand Prix special. I judged Grand Prix, not the special, but I judged the Grand Prix in Hagen. But the special at the next, also on Sunday morning, was I think the highest scores ever given in this Grand Prix. That was the Olympic Grand Prix in Hagen. I think it was on YouTube. Also, if you see this test, you would say, wow, it's an absolutely wow test. Again, this is in each moment in this situation. Charlotte Dujardin with Vallejo. And this is my personal opinion, and I had a lot of examples where I can say it was very good that I had the microphone to explain, especially the critical situations. I will never forget when we had a young horses class. It was a superstar, the horse, but the horse didn't move properly. Well, at the end of the day, we had given a 6.5. 6.5 is to be half pregnant. It's not black and it's not white. The people who saw the horse said, wow, that's a horse for the future. This is an Olympic horse, it's an international horse. And the other said, this horse is so well trained, so badly trained, 6.5 is much too high. I was very happy. It was the very first time that I had a microphone like this. I was very happy that I had in my judge's box a microphone to explain this, because 6.5 was between black and white. So it was a compromise. It was just a compromise. Super horse, badly trained. So,
Wow. How did you verbalize that?
Verbalize, I will explain. I did say, it is many years ago, many years ago, I said, it's a wonderful horse. Then the rider said, everybody said, very good gaits, very good elasticity. I think this is a horse for an international arena, 20 to 60. Also, I love it. But the way of training, this is not the way we want to see the horse. The horse is not accepting the driving aids of the rider. The horse is not supple enough. And to be honest, the horse is not trained into the right direction. I'm very sorry, but I have to say this on the other hand. So, positive and negative, and then the result, I have to give a 6.5. And then the rider came later and said, Mr. Hess, I was first time in the arena with white fences. And I all the time looking, yeah, okay. But this was, I don't know whether she was right or not, but and you have to, therefore your question is absolutely right. You have to be very careful to say. You can write a sentence, no one will read it. But when you use the microphone, someone has a camera, and then it's in the internet, and it's on YouTube, and everybody can see it, right? Yeah, a good question. Also flexion without bending, we have in leg yield, and yeah, I need to have Vorhandswendung.
Turn on the forehead.
Turn, thank you much. Turn on the forehead. Why didn't I know this word? Turn on the forehand, which is not a popular movement, but it's a very educational movement. I think all horses in the beginning and young riders had to use the movement turn on the forehead. We don't have it quite often in Germany now, but it's very educational because you need all your aids. But it is a movement just with flexion, no bending. And bending and flexion you have it all in the whole lateral work, which is shoulder in, which is travers, which are half passes, and which is renvers, which we have in about the haunches, which is in the pirouettes, in walk, in canter. And to be honest, we have it in all curved lines. It starts with a corner, then with a circle, and then with a volte. This is bending and flexion.